Hi, everybody. Welcome to Discover College Soccer. Today, I'm lucky enough to be joined by Coach Cracas from Tiffin University in Ohio. Coach, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here. You know, I grew up in Ohio, so I'm familiar with Tiffin. My wife's from the Detroit area, so you know, between where I grew up and where she grew up, you know, we know that conference and those schools pretty well. So I'm happy to have you on. A nice Division II program with a rich tradition, and we'll get to that in a few minutes. But let's talk about the recruiting side, right? As a Division II school, kind of when are you starting to really look at players in terms of, you know, what year in high school are they? When are you hearing from players? What's kind of your timeline on a typical recruiting class?
So for us, it's a little bit different. I mean, our coaching staff got hired last July, so we're kind of a little bit behind the eight ball for our 22 and even the 2023 class. For us, we can't start talking to the 2024 class until June 15th. But, for us, it's right now, it's, finalizing that 2022 class and really starting to, kind of get a handle and catch up on our 2023 class and start putting, at least verbal offers out to them. But, the one thing I will always say, and this is my recommendation to all recruits is it's never too early and it's never too late. It is a process, and the earlier you start, the easier it is to start to have that relationship with the coaching staffs and to be able to figure out really what kind of personalities that as a player you're going to fit. And from a coaching standpoint, the more I get to know them, the more I know, the work ethic, personalities, the person that you don't see on the field, and how does that relate to our team. So from that standpoint, from a recruiting standpoint, we've got clinics, ID clinics. Again, those are open to, freshmen through seniors. So we encourage freshmen to come as well. For us, it's, when we start talking to them, it's really June 15th going into that junior year is when we can start talking to them.
So I love the advice. It's never too early, never too late. So how many contacts would you say you get in an average week? I know it ebbs and flows with tournaments and there's a lot of things, but just give me a typical kind of, what's your inbox look like when you're managing recruiting emails?
It's funny is it does change throughout the year. I mean, I'll go 1 week where I've got, probably 15, 20. And then as you get closer to, a showcase. So for an example, the Nike blue chip was this past weekend. And, we had probably about 45 to 50 recruits that had reached out to us to come watch them play. And that was ranging from individuals that are, in the 2025 class to a couple that were also in the 2022 class. And so for us, it's, we've got to make sure that we're really seeing those kids in the 2022, 2023, and 2024 classes before we're even starting into 2025. So, but I would tell you, it's for us, it just depends on the time of year. I think now, we're starting to see more of the 24s and 25s, and we're probably getting contacts, again, probably 15 to 20 a week.
Okay, that makes sense. So you mentioned the blue chip. What are some of the tournaments that are on your radar that you have to get to every year, the ones you kind of focus on for seeing players?
So for us, it's it kind of starts for us, and I'll kind of take it through kind of how we decide what tournaments to go to. This year was kind of an exploring year for us. I mean, obviously I was at Division III for 12 years, and it's different. Now we're going to we went to the National League Pro event down at ESPN Zone in December. Went back down to Florida for the ECNL event in January.
Well, then we walked past each other. I live 2 miles from there, so.
Okay, very good, very good. Yeah, it was. So for us, it's going to ECNL events, National League Pro events, and then GA events. So for us this year, the GA events this year, we were trying to figure out which ones we could go to, which ones would be beneficial to us. And, you know, for us, I think that going to the GA event, we're actually heading to this upcoming weekend down in North Carolina. So it's just going to be, you know, for us this year, it's figuring out which ones that we'll go to in the following years. But it's going to be ECNL events, GA events, and then the National League Pro events. So, you know, I think next year we'll end up going to Ohio Elite because there are some ECNL teams that from Cincinnati in the Kentucky area that go to that as well.
Yeah, yeah, some good places. So you mentioned clinics and ID camps and things like that. How much do camps fit into your overall recruiting process? Do you go to other schools' camps, some of those for-profit ID camps that have college coaches there? Like, just kind of what does the camp situation look like for your recruiting?
So for me, I would tell you, I think it goes based on each coach and what their philosophy is. To me, I want to get kids onto our campus, into our ID clinics. I think it's very important. I know that you hear different things out there, different advice, don't go to ID clinics. The coaches are just trying to earn money, make money. I would tell you the exact opposite. I think going to an ID clinic, from twofolds. One, you get onto that campus, you can see, does that campus kind of fit you at kind of, if you're, younger, but also I think it gives you that opportunity to see as a player, can I play for this type of coach? Is their coaching style fit into me as a person? And could I see myself playing for an individual like this? I think that's extremely important. And I think you get less kind of, I wouldn't say issues, but conflicts with players when they do come and they see how you coach and they can interact with you through those ID clinics. We run our ID clinics a little bit different. I mean, we run it through kind of like a normal training session for us. So we come in, we run 2 sessions with them, let them obviously play a little bit big, those afternoons a little bit bigger than picture than the morning, but it's more like a training session for us that we're getting them through, kind of teaching them what our system's going to be, kind of instructing in that time as well. So they're kind of getting that feel of how would it be to play for, our coaching staff here. To answer your question, I do go to other ID clinics held by other institutions. We go to Bowling Green, we go to Kent State. We're looking to go to Ohio State this summer. Excuse me. We'll go to a couple of the profit ones, but really for us, it's, we're going to go to the other institutions before we go to the profit camps.
Yeah, no, that's great. I just, one of the questions I always get is, are those for-profit ones worth it? And again, I think like that you said, the answer is it depends. Some are, some aren't. Just depends on what you're going to get. So, well, when you're either at, one of the tournaments or your own ID camps, what is your checklist of the things that you're looking for in a player? What's your hierarchy of whether that's on the field or off the field attributes when it comes to players you're recruiting?
I think the biggest thing for us, and it's something that we talk a lot about, is the character of the recruit. It's kind of weird because I say this in every recruiting seminar I'll go talk to, and I'll even say this at our ID clinics, is I want kids to fail. And it's kind of weird for me to say that because I want to see how they react. If they're a goalkeeper, I want to see them give up a goal. How do they react to it? How quick do they bounce back? Do they yell at their teammates? Or is it more of, hey, listen, let's get going. Let's organize. Let's figure it out. From a field player standpoint, if it's a forward, if they take an outside back on and they get, the ball gets taken off their foot or they shank a shot, how do they react to that? Everybody reacts, in a great manner when they're having great success, but how do they react when it's flipped and they're not playing at their best, or they're having a rough game, or, they just don't have that trap that day. Their first touch is off, their pass is off, does the work rate drop? So it's great when we go to a showcase or they're at a clinic and they're having their best day, but we also kind of want to see when they struggle and they're not in that comfort zone. How do they react to it? So those are some things that we look for. Also is, how do they treat their teammates? How do they treat their coaches? But when they're walking off the field, whether it's at an ID clinic or even at a showcase, how do they treat their parents? There's been several times throughout the years that, they'll be walking across the field or they'll be walking around the field and mom or dad's there, and they're not really treating them with respect. And for us, that's a huge red flag, because if you're not going to treat your parents with respect, then how do I know you're going to treat our coaching staff or even your teammates with respect? And so for us, a lot of times, specifically here at Tiffin, and what we're trying to build is we're trying to build, a close-knit family here. And to bring somebody in that, really isn't treating their own family with respect, it's something that really, for us is kind of a red flag. So it's not necessarily all the time of what they do on the field, but it's how they carry themselves. The one thing that we talk about with our team and our recruits all the time is, we have three core words that we live by in this program. It's love, serve, care. And the first one is love. And that is being passionate about whatever you do. If you're a soccer player, being passionate about the game of soccer, I shouldn't have to worry, what you're doing in the off season, making sure that you're staying in shape, getting a touch on the ball. If you're passionate about it, you're going to do that extra work. The serve part, serve others, put the needs of the team ahead of your own, be a servant leader. And then the third one is care. Actually show that you care about people. You're going to have teammates that are having a rough game. Do you go up there? Do you help them out, or do you try to beat them down? So I think that even goes into how we recruit as well.
No, I think I love that. Love, serve, and care, and it's so important. I might have to steal that. So
go ahead. I didn't bring that up. I didn't
right.
create that.
All
so
right. Now the always the uncomfortable but usually top of mind question on most parents' minds is dollars and cents. So the nice thing is you got some athletic money there as a Division II, but what is the overall financial aid picture look like at Tiffin with regards to academic money, grants, athletic money, and just the whole picture, just to give folks a sense of what they can expect if they were walking in?
It's we always call it the sticker price. So the sticker price for Tiffin is right around $41,000, give or take a couple $100 there. But I think a lot of it has to deal with what the grades are. If you've got somebody who's got high GPA, you're looking at probably about $16,000 as an academic scholarship, and then from there, based on honestly how we evaluate players. We can, give athletic scholarships there from anything to a full ride to as little as $5,000. Just based on what our evaluation of the individual is. So when we're talking about dollars and cents, it really also just depends on at the end of the day, if we're talking athletic scholarship, how we view that person for our program, not only today, but a year down the road or 2 years down the road. So
okay. No, I always ask because that's always a top of mind question for folks. So let's shift gears. You mentioned about academics, so let's talk about the school a little bit. You can click around the website and learn a lot about Tiffin, but give me the behind the scenes, what's awesome about Tiffin that maybe I'm not going to find just from going to the website.
I love that question, because I get that question a lot during the recruiting process when we have recruits on campus or they're at our ID clinic, and they ask the question of what's special about Tiffin, and I will say this: it's a medium to small size school, but it's a family here, and I got that sense the day I came on campus for my interview. Walking around campus in end of June, not a lot of students are on campus, but the students that I ran into, the faculty, the administration, they really honestly care about the person and what their goals are and what they want to accomplish and how they can help them out in accomplishing those goals. So whether it's a student who's coming in and they want to get into criminal justice, and their goal is to work for the FBI, work for the CIA, how can we get you there? And it's through the internships, it's through the reputation of our certain programs here that allows that. But I'm going to tell you, it's really about it's a community that cares about everyone from faculty, staff, students, and making sure that they accomplish what they want to in their time here. I think from a student standpoint, we've got great services here, from, free tutoring in our Murphy Center to, we've got an app called Circle app that you can go on the app and click on your class, and it's online, and there's a tutor on there that can help you with any questions that you have. And I think in today's day and age, specifically with what we just came through in COVID, I think that's just a great, another great tool that, we're providing our students here.
Yeah, no, that's great. Well, you kind of mentioned a little bit about some of the support mechanisms, but how specifically do your student athletes in women's soccer kind of balance their academics and their sport commitments, and besides what you mentioned, are there other things to kind of help them get through that?
So I think the one thing that we do, and I will say this, this was established way before I got here. We've got a great, really, they embody what the student athlete is here. Specifically on the women's soccer side, we had our fall GPA was a 3.46. And a lot of it is, again, we go back to the family is, our upperclassmen take care of our first year students and helping them and guiding them when we're on the road, whether it's helping tutor them in certain classes or also help guiding them into, how to study when, they're transitioning from a high school student to a college student. But the one thing that we do have is, for all first year student athletes here, specifically on the women's soccer side, they're mandatory during the fall, they have 2 hours of study tables that they are required to go to. And that can be anything from, making sure you're going to see your, a professor during office hours to using the Murphy Center where there's free tutoring services. So from that standpoint, I think it's a combination of, what the general campus provides us, but then also, our returners helping our first years and guiding them in the right direction.
No, that's awesome. So if I was a student on your soccer team during the season, what is my typical week look like in terms of what I'm doing from waking up till I'm going to bed throughout the week?
So if we're talking about in season, generally speaking, their classes begin at 8 o'clock in the morning. Classes are usually done roughly around 1:45. We do have some classes that go later than that, but we're probably out on the field by about 2:15, 2:30. From a general standpoint, our training sessions last an hour and a half. I think going over that, and again, going back to it, it's just my philosophy. I think anything over that, specifically in the demand that we put on our athletes already, we just want to limit that, wear and tear on the body. The great addition that we're going to have to our our locker room next year is we'll have a TV and stuff in there that we can actually go right off the training field into our locker room, watch film right there, and not really have to come back to the other side of campus to get into a classroom. So from that standpoint, most of our training sessions are from 2:15, 2:30 till about 4 o'clock. And then from there, on Mondays, they'll be in the weight room after training. So they'll get in the weight room probably around 4:30, 4:45 for about an hour lift. And then Tuesday, Wednesdays, there's no lifting on Tuesdays or Wednesdays. Wednesday's a prep day because we play on Thursdays and Saturdays. So Fridays are going to be a little bit lower than that. From an intensity standpoint, we're probably going to go about an hour and 15, kind of just figure out what we need to clean up from the last day, and then obviously prepping for Saturday's game.
Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit about the travel. I'm from Ohio, so I know how big the state is and where you have to go, but talk to me a little bit about, your conference travel, your out of conference scheduling, and what that usually means for students in school and that kind of thing.
I think our conference does a good job of kind of how they set up our conference scheduling and making sure that they understand that they're still students first. For us, we only have 3 non-conference games. So for an example, this upcoming fall, we'll open up in Illinois, in Springfield, Illinois. So we'll leave on Wednesday. We'll play Thursday. Friday, the great thing about Tiffin and the way that they're structuring it is there's no classes unless you're in a lab on Friday. So we're not missing classes on Fridays, and then we'll play on Saturday. But I mean, in our conference, I mean, really close to us. I mean, you've got University of Findlay, Ashland, both are within an hour. So, there is some travel involved, but I think we do a good job of making sure that the students aren't missing too many classes. Obviously we do have, two schools, one down in Nashville at Trevecca, and then Kentucky Wesleyan too, which are a little bit of a distance, but they do a good job of partnering that up. So, for an example, this fall we'll travel to Trevecca on a Wednesday, play them on a Thursday, and then head over to Kentucky Wesleyan to play them on a Saturday. So
that makes sense. Yeah, those when I coached in Indiana, we didn't play Trevecca, but I had Kentucky Wesleyan every year, so that definitely been there. So let's see. I'm trying to decide where I want to take the conversation. Well, let's talk about the team, I guess. How many players do you like to? Well, I guess it's a loaded question. If I say how many players would you like to have on your roster versus how many the school wants you to have on your roster. So what is a typical roster size at Tiffin?
So we have two teams. We have a varsity team and what we call a developmental team, based on our philosophy, our coaching philosophy on our staff. We don't call it a reserve team. We don't call it a JV team, because really, truly what we're trying to do with that second team is develop our players that might need a year, whether, the game's just a little bit too quick for them, or it's, they just need to develop and refine some certain skills, or they're coming off an injury. So we use our development team for that. But to be honest with you, I mean, on the varsity, we're looking, I'll give you kind of a range. We're looking at 28 to 32. The reason for the range is depends on how many goalkeepers we'll carry on the varsity squad. And we're probably looking at roughly around the same numbers for our development program. So the nice thing about our development program, we do schedule out 18 games for them. Wow. So they're playing pretty much a full schedule as is anyways.
Oh, that's awesome. That's the most developmental games I've heard of, at least of any of the schools that I've talked to. So that's good stuff. Well, what about your staff? How big is your staff? What roles does everybody play?
So, we're very fortunate enough in our staff that we have. We've got myself, and then we've got a full-time coach, and then we'll have 2 GAs in the fall, and then we have a volunteer coach. So we have 5 coaches on staff. And I think that, when you talk about, having a varsity and having a development program, to me, it goes back to kind of the philosophy of the school, and that's having a low, for us, student athlete to coach ratio. At the school, it's a faculty to student ratio, but it's our ability to help continue to develop those players, not just as players but as people as well. And so I think with the staff that we have, again, you're looking at probably a 9-to-1, 10-to-1 ratio, which is, I will tell you, it's going to be probably one of the lowest in the area. When you're talking about the student athlete to coaching ratio. So, but no, I for us, it's making sure that we're focusing on our staff and hitting what their strengths are. We're actually going to be getting Beyond Pulse has a heart rate monitor that we're actually going to be using. So one of our GAs is going to be in charge of grabbing that data, analyzing that data, and then providing it back to the rest of the staff after each training session. We'll be able to break down film a little bit more into detail because of the size staff that we have as well. So
that's great. Well, how would you describe your style of coaching and your team style of play, kind of the overall culture of the team?
I think that my coaching style has evolved over the last, I'd say, 5 years, and it's going to continue to evolve. I think that, when we talk about being passionate about what we do, it's got to be constantly evolving. You can't be set in your ways and say, well, this is the way I've done it for, 10 years. So this is the way I'm going to continue to do it. The game's evolving. So I think for me, it's about getting them out and getting them to play. Obviously, seeing as much into the big picture as possible. We train in smaller areas and then move to the bigger picture. One is because that's how we want to play. We want to press teams. So if we press teams, we want to be able to play out of a press. We call our style of play is possession with a purpose. And our purpose is to go forward. But if it's not on, then what we want to do is knock the ball back, quickly look to switch it, or honestly regroup and rebuild. But from that standpoint, coaching philosophy is continuing to develop our players, making sure that they're getting every opportunity that they want, whether it's in individual work, whether it's in film, and making sure that we're able to allow our players to continue to grow through that individual attention through training and stuff.
Okay. Well, we're talking here in the end of springtime. So what does your kind of off-season program typically look like?
So, so we finished our spring, this year, and I'll kind of take it from January and then kind of move through. But obviously this year being our first spring with the team here, we really wanted to allow our players that if they wanted a little bit more individual attention, whether it was film, whether it was a little bit more individual ball work, to be able to do that. So the one thing we focused on this year was getting into the weight room. I'm a big believer in getting in the weight room, learning how to properly lift, because there are a lot of huge benefits to it, and I don't think that they're being taught. So, I mean, I've got my strength conditioning certification. Obviously, I'm a big believer in that. So we were in the weight room 3 days a week. This past January, we were on the ball twice a week. For us, we just told our team, listen, if you guys are telling us you're passionate about it, then you got to get your fitness in on your own. And so what we did was we said, hey, this is the part where we talk about being holding yourselves accountable. Get your fitness in when you can. So once we got closer to games, obviously we increased that time on the ball, really focusing in on really kind of introducing the next phase of our style. I mean, we got hired in July. This past fall, it was really about getting to know who our players were, and then trying to implement our system into it. But this spring was a lot. We were able to kind of really hone in on what our system is going to be going into the fall. And then putting them honestly into situations where they weren't comfortable and seeing how they react to that. I think there's a huge benefit to making sure that the players are not always comfortable, because when they are, it's easy to continue to manage through things. And when they're uncomfortable, which is what happens in games, how do they react to it? How do we slow the heart rate down? How do we slow the breathing down so that they are confident in those situations and they don't panic? And I thought you saw, for us, we saw tremendous growth throughout the spring, not only in our system, but how our players continued to develop in their comfortability with us as coaches, and then also on the field. And now heading into, they're actually in finals this week. Right now I just actually talked to our strength coach and, find out when they're going to be sending out the workout packets and summer packets. But we had the conversation with our team at the end of spring, and we just said, hey, ladies, we've taken giant steps in the right direction where we want to take this program. It now comes back to you. And if you tell us you are passionate about this, you're going to do the work, this summer. It's basically 4 months where it's on them if they want to continue to develop this program and where it's going to go. So they will get, they'll get their fitness packet, and then they'll also get their strength packet. And we told them they have to get on the ball. They've got to either find a team or try to, get back with, their club team and get touches on the ball this summer.
Yeah, those are always the hardest things, right? When you don't know what they're doing when they're away.
That is true. That is true.
Yeah. Well, hey, we've covered a lot of ground. Appreciate the time. I'm going to leave you one more last question, which is the catch-all. What didn't we cover? What else do you want to talk about? What did we miss? What else is there about the team, about Tiffin, or anything else you'd like to share with us?
I think the biggest thing is, and I will tell you this, once this position was open, I started really looking at the history of the women's soccer program. and it's got a great tradition, and that's what a lot of people don't understand. You know, this is a program that's won multiple conference championships, that has been to the when they were NAIA, they were in the NAIA Sweet 16. And then the next year they went to the NCAA. They were in the NCAA tournament that year. And so for us, it's about finding the right pieces and the right individuals that have the correct character and helping us get back there. I mean, that's our ultimate goal, is getting this program back to where it once was. And that's really the job and task that we have at hand. And, you know, I will say this, if you get a chance, and this is to anybody that's listening to this, to look at Tiffin, it's a great school. It's a great community, very welcoming, just with open arms, and really want to help anybody that really wants a great education and also a great experience.
Awesome. Well, Coach, we appreciate the time. Wish you the best of luck. Now that you'll have a full year under your belt, I'm sure you'll keep taking that team back to those storied traditions. So thanks again, and hopefully we'll talk again soon.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
Take care.